The massive starship Endless Journey drifted through the cold darkness of space, like a dying whale. Its hull, once silver and proud, was now a patchwork of dull metal plates scavenged from dead worlds. Sparks flew from broken circuits in the corridors, and the air recyclers wheezed with each breath they gave to the ship. Commander Veltor stood in the bridge, his tall insect-like body swaying slightly as the artificial gravity flickered. His 6 eyes, once bright green, had faded to a sickly yellow. The chitinous plates that covered his body were cracked and dull, like old armor left in the rain. "How many today?" he asked without turning around. His aide, Morden, checked the glowing tablet in his clawed hands. 18 died in the night cycle, Commander. The wasting sickness is spreading faster now. Velthor's mandibles clicked together in the way his people showed sadness. 3007. That was all that remained of the mighty Kethmor civilization. Once, they had ruled 12 star systems. Their cities had floated among the clouds of gas giants, and their ships had carried millions of his people to distant worlds. Now they were ghosts. It had been 300 years since their sun began to die. The great star that had warmed their homeworld for millions of years started to collapse. The scientists had given them warning, but not enough time. They managed to save only a few thousand people, and whatever ships they could build quickly. For 3 centuries, they had wandered from dead world to dead world, taking what they could find. Old space stations, abandoned colonies, crashed ships, anything that might help them survive another day. But survival was not living, and the Kethmori were slowly forgetting how to do either. The worst part was the plague. It had started small, just a few people getting weak and tired, but as the years passed, more and more of his people began to waste away. Their scientists called it genetic drift. The modifications their ancestors had made to let them survive in space were breaking down, like a machine slowly falling apart. "Sir," called the sensor operator from her station, "we are picking up something ahead. A star system with planets." Velthar walked over to look at the display. The screen showed a yellow star, not unlike the one that had once warmed their world. Around it spun several planets, and the third one glowed blue and green. "Waterworld," he said. "Any signs of life?" The operator's antennae twitched as she focused on her instruments. "Yes, Commander. Primitive electromagnetic signals, radio waves, and ... She paused. Metal objects in orbit around the planet. Veltor felt a flutter of something he had almost forgotten. Hope. Perhaps this world would have the resources they needed. Metal for their ships, water for their systems, maybe even rare elements for their failing medical equipment. "How long? Until we reach the system?" he asked. 6 days at our current speed, sir. Velthar nodded. 6 more days of watching his people die, one by one. 6 more days of listening to the ship's systems fail a little more with each hour. 6 more days of the same endless journey they had been on for 3 centuries. But maybe, just maybe, this blue world would be different. He walked to the viewport and stared out at the stars. Somewhere behind them, invisible now in the vast darkness, was the white dwarf that had once been their sun. Sometimes he dreamed of their old world, the crystal cities, the floating gardens, the songs his people used to sing when they were young and strong and had a future. "Commander," Morden said quietly, "should I wake the other ship captains?" The Kethmori fleet consisted of 7 ships, all in various stages of decay. The Hope's End had lost half its engines last year. The final journey could barely maintain life support. The others were not much better. Only the Endless Journey was still fully operational, and even it was held together more by hope than proper repairs. "Yes," Veltor said. "Tell them we may have found something. Tell them to prepare their scavenging teams." As Morden sent the message, Velthar continued to stare at the stars. He had been born on one of the ships during their long exile. He had never seen a real world, never breathed air that did not come from a recycling unit, never felt sunlight that was not artificial. His people had stories of their homeworld, passed down from the survivors. They spoke of seasons that changed, the color of the sky, of oceans that stretched beyond the horizon, of cities that grew like living things rather than being built from metal and desperation. But those were just stories now. The Kethmori were a dying people, and Veltor was their dying commander, leading them on an endless search for something that might let them survive just a little longer. The blue world grew slowly larger in their sensors, and for the first time in years, Veltor allowed himself to wonder if maybe, somehow, their luck might finally change. Dr. Hannah Kim floated in the observation dome of Luna Station, watching the strange ships approach Earth's moon. Through the reinforced glass, she could see 7 vessels that looked like they had been through a war. Their hulls were patched with different metals, and some of the ships left trails of glowing gas behind them. "They're not answering our signals," said Lieutenant Minho Park from the communication station. "Should I call for the military ships?" Hannah shook her head. "Look at them, Minho. Those ships are barely holding together. These aren't invaders, they're refugees." She had been studying space for 15 years, always hoping that humanity would one day meet other intelligent life. Now that moment had come, but not the way anyone had expected. The alien ships looked desperate, like animals fleeing a fire. The largest ship slowly moved closer to the station. Its hull was covered in scars and patches, but Hannah could see that it had once been beautiful. There were elegant curves in its design that spoke of a people who had once cared about more than just survival. After 3 hours of trying, the aliens finally responded to Earth's signals. The voice that came through the speakers was strange, with clicks and whistles mixed in with sounds that the computer tried to translate. "We seek resources," the voice said haltingly. "Dying need help. Have star maps to trade." Hannah felt her heart race. First contact with an alien species, and they were asking for help. She made a decision that would change everything. "This is Dr. Hannah Kim of Luna Station," she spoke into the microphone. "We want to help you. Can you send a small ship to dock with us?" There was a long pause. Then the alien voice came back, sounding surprised. "You help, not attack. We help," Hannah said simply. 2 hours later, a small shuttle approached Luna Station. It was as patched and worn as the larger ships, but it moved gracefully through space. Hannah waited in the docking bay with a medical team, not knowing what to expect. The airlocks cycled open with a hiss of different air. The first alien to step through was tall, maybe 7 feet, with a body that looked like a cross between a human and a praying mantis. His skin was made of hard plates that had once been bright green, but were now dull and cracked. 4 arms hung from his shoulders, and his head had large compound eyes that reminded Hannah of a fly. "I am Commander Velthor of the Kethmori," he said through a small device that translated his words. "We come seeking trade, water, metals, rare elements. We offer star charts of this galaxy." But Hannah was not looking at what he carried. She was looking at how he moved. The alien commander was sick. She could see it in the way he walked, the way his breathing sounded wrong through his translator. "You're ill," she said directly. "All of you. How long have you been traveling?" Velthair's compound eyes seemed to flicker with surprise. Most species they had encountered either attacked them or tried to cheat them in trades. None had ever shown concern for their health. 300 years since our star died," he said quietly. "The wasting sickness takes us slowly. We are the last of our kind." Hannah felt tears coming to her eyes. 300 years of wandering space, watching their people die one by one. She could not imagine such suffering. "How many of you are there?" she asked. 3,207, Veltha replied. "Yesterday there were more." The medical team began scanning the alien commander with their equipment. Dr. Gina Lee, the station's chief medical officer, frowned at her readings. His cellular structure is breaking down, she whispered to Hannah. It looks like some kind of genetic collapse. Hannah made a decision that went against all the protocols. Commander Velthor, we want to help you. Not just trade, really help. Our doctors are very good. Maybe we can find a way to treat your sickness. The alien commander stood very still for a long moment. His translator made small clicking sounds as if it was having trouble with what he wanted to say. Why? He finally asked. You do not know us. We have nothing you truly need. Why would you? Help. Hannah smiled. Because you're in pain, and we can maybe stop it. That's reason enough. For the first time, she saw something change in the alien's strange eyes. Hope, maybe, or just surprise that kindness still existed in the universe. My people have forgotten what kindness looks like, Velthar said softly. We have been alone for so long. You're not alone anymore, Hannah replied. Over the next few hours, more aliens came aboard the station. Each one was sick. Each one moved like they were carrying a terrible weight. But they also seemed amazed by the humans they met. When Dr. Gina offered them food, some of them actually cried, though their tears were different colors than human tears. Lieutenant Minho Park worked with their engineers to understand their technology. Their ships are incredible, he told Hannah later. The basic design is hundreds of years ahead of ours. They just don't have the resources to maintain them anymore. As the day ended, Commander Velthar stood with Hannah in the observation dome, looking down at Earth's blue surface. Beautiful world, he said. Like ours was, long ago. Maybe, Hannah said quietly, it can be like that again. Dr. Gina Lee stared at the holographic display floating above her desk in the Seoul Research Center. The alien DNA structure rotated slowly in the air, showing patterns she had never seen before. For 3 weeks, she had been working day and night to understand what was killing the Kethmori. It's not a disease, she said to her assistant, Dr. Kyung Nam. Look at this section here. Their ancestors changed their own DNA to survive in space, but the changes are falling apart. Kyung leaned closer to examine the display, like a building that was built too fast and is now collapsing. Exactly, Gina nodded. Their people modified themselves 300 years ago when their sons started dying. They needed to breathe different air, process different food, handle radiation, but they did it in a hurry, and now the modifications are breaking down. In another part of the building, Engineer Dowen Choi was lying under a Kethmori power core with Morden the alien aide. The device was the size of a small car and hummed with energy, but it was clearly failing. Your people built amazing things, Dowen said, passing a tool to Morden. This power core should last 1,000 years, but you've been fixing it with the wrong parts. Morden's antennae drooped with embarrassment. We use what we can find. Dead ships, abandoned stations. We forgot how to make the right parts long ago. Dowen smiled and pulled out a small device from his toolkit. But we can learn. Look at this connector here. You've been using copper wire, but the original design calls for a silver titanium alloy. We can make that. While the engineers worked on machines, Dr. Kung Nam was in the agricultural lab with a young Kethmori named Thalvin. The alien was barely adult by his species standards, but he was already showing signs of the wasting sickness. Your people have been eating processed food, paste for 300 years, Kyung asked, horrified. Thalvin nodded sadly. The food. Machines make what we need to survive. Nothing more. Kyung showed him a tomato plant growing under special lights. But food should be more than just survival. It should give you joy, make you strong, help you heal. The young alien touched the plant gently with one of his clawed fingers. It's beautiful. Does it taste good? Try it, Kyung said, picking a ripe tomato and handing it to him. Thalvin bit into the fruit carefully. His compound eyes widened with surprise, and he made a sound that the translator couldn't process. But Kyung could tell it meant wonder. We had forgotten, Thalvin whispered, that food could taste like something. Back in the medical lab, Dr. Gina was working with Commander Velthor to understand exactly what the genetic modifications had done. The alien commander sat patiently as machines scanned his body and took samples. Your ancestors were very clever, Gina explained, showing him charts on her computer screen. They changed your DNA so you could live on ships, breathe recycled air, and resist radiation. But they also made your cells age faster than they should. Can it be fixed? Velthor asked quietly. Gina hesitated. Maybe, but not in the way you might think. We can't just undo the changes. You need them to survive in space. Instead, we need to stabilize them and add new code to stop the breakdown. How long would that take? Months, maybe years to perfect. But, she paused, we could try a test. Treatment on someone young and healthy first. Velthor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Thalvin. He volunteered to be the first for any treatment. The next few weeks were intense. Teams of human scientists worked around the clock, sharing their findings with Kethmori researchers who had joined them. The aliens had knowledge of biology that humans had never imagined, while the humans brought fresh ideas and new technology. Engineer Dowan made breakthrough after breakthrough with the alien ships. The problem isn't that your technology is old, he explained to a gathering of both species. It's that you've been maintaining it wrong. These ships can be better than new if we do it right. Meanwhile, Dr. Kyung had developed new food systems that could grow fresh plants in the alien ships. The Kethmori, who tasted real food for the first time in generations, wept with joy. But the biggest moment came when Dr. Gina announced that the gene therapy was ready for testing. Thalvin lay on a medical bed surrounded by both human and Kethmori doctors. The treatment would take hours. Tiny machines would enter his bloodstream and carefully repair his DNA, adding new code to stop the genetic breakdown. Are you ready? Dr. Gina asked. The young alien nodded. For my people, I am ready. Commander. Velthor stood nearby, watching as the machines began their work. For the first time in centuries, a Kethmori might be truly healed instead of just kept alive. Dr. Gina Velthor said quietly, why do you help us? Your people could have taken our ships, our technology. Instead, you save us. Gina looked up from her equipment. Because that's what people do. We help each other. Your species is very strange, Velthor said, but his translator somehow conveyed that he meant it as a compliment. As the hours passed, something remarkable happened. Thalvin's dull chitin plates began to brighten. His breathing became stronger. The medical monitors showed his cells beginning to repair themselves for the first time in his life. It's working, Dr. Gina whispered, hardly believing her own instruments. For the first time in 300 years, a Kethmori was getting better instead of worse. 1 year had passed since the first successful gene therapy, and the Kethmori fleet looked completely different. The endless journey no longer groaned and sparked as it moved through space. Its hull gleamed with new metal plating, and the corridors hummed with properly working systems. Commander Velthor walked through the ship's main corridor with Dr. Gina Lee, amazed at the changes. Where once there had been empty rooms full of broken equipment, now there were gardens. Real plants grew under artificial sunlight, filling the air with smells the Kethmori had not experienced for 3 centuries. Look at them, Velthor said, pointing to a group of young Kethmori playing in what used to be a storage room. Their chitin plates shone bright green, and they moved with energy that older generations had never possessed. Thalvin, the first to receive the gene therapy, was now completely transformed. Not only was he healthy, but he had grown stronger and smarter than any Kethmori in recorded history. He worked alongside human engineers, solving problems that had puzzled both species for months. The treatment did more than just cure the wasting sickness, Dr. Gina explained to Velthor as they walked. It unlocked genetic potential that your people had forgotten they had. The young ones who received it are not just healthy, they're better than your species has ever been. In the engineering section, Thalvin was working with Dowan Choi on a new type of engine that combined human and Kethmori technology. The young aliens for arms moved in perfect coordination as he assembled components that would have taken human engineers hours to put together. The power flow is smooth now, Thalvin said, his translator catching the excitement in his voice. This engine is 3 times more efficient than either of our species built alone. Dowan grinned and patted the alien on his armored shoulder. Your people's understanding of energy fields plus our manufacturing techniques, we make a good team. But the changes were not just physical. The Kethmori culture itself was transforming. For 300 years, they had focused only on survival, on finding the next resource, the next temporary solution. Now, for the first time since their son died, they were making plans for the future. Captain Solahan stood in the bridge of the new ship Friendship, a vessel designed and built by both species working together. It was beautiful in a way that neither humans nor Kethmori could have achieved alone, sleek like human ships, but with the elegant curves that were signature of Kethmori design. The colony site scans are complete, she reported to the Joint Council meeting. The planet in the Kepler system has everything we need: water, minerals, and no intelligent life to disturb. Velthar clicked his mandibles in approval. A year ago, his people had been dying refugees. Now they were planning to build their first permanent home in 3 centuries. How many ships for the colony mission? Asked Dr. Kung Nam, who had become the chief agricultural specialist for the joint fleet. 3 human vessels and 2 Kethmori ships, Captain Sola replied. We'll have the first settlement operational within 6 months. The meeting was held in a room that perfectly showed how much both species had changed. Human and Kethmori representatives sat around a table designed for both body types. The walls displayed star charts that combined human exploration data with ancient Kethmori maps of the galaxy. There is something else, said Morden, who had become the Kethmori cultural ambassador. Our young people are asking questions we have not heard for centuries. What kind of questions? Dr. Gina asked. They want to know about art, about music, about building beautiful things instead of just functional ones, Morden explained. Yesterday, 3 of them asked if they could learn to paint. Velthar felt something stir in his chest that he had thought was dead forever. Pride. Not the desperate pride of survival, but the warm pride of a people who had hope again. Before our son died, he said quietly, the Kethmori were known throughout the galaxy for our crystal sculptures and our singing gardens. We thought that part of us was lost forever. Nothing is ever truly lost, said Dr. Hannah Kim, who had become the director of human Kethmori relations. Your people just forgot how to dream. Now they're remembering. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent signal from the sensor station. Lieutenant Minho Park's excited voice came through the speakers. We're receiving a transmission from outside the solar system, he announced. It's not human or Kethmori. There's another species out there, and they're sending what looks like a distress call. The room fell silent. Everyone remembered how the first contact between humans and Kethmori had begun, with a desperate, dying people looking for help. Can you translate the message? Velthor asked. Working on it now, Minho replied. After a few minutes, his voice came back, more serious. It's from something called the Zephyrian Republic. Their star is going supernova, and they have less than a year to evacuate their people. Velthar looked around the room at the faces of both species, humans and Kethmori, who had learned to work together, to save each other, to build something better than either could achieve alone. How many ships do we have that are ready for a rescue mission? He asked. Captain Sola checked her reports. 15 vessels, fully equipped and staffed with joint crews. Velthor's compound eyes gleamed with determination. 1 year ago, his people had been saved by the kindness of strangers. Now they had the power to be those strangers for someone else. Then we go, he said simply. The Zephyrians will not die alone while we have ships that can reach them. The transformation was complete. The Kethmori had not just survived, They had learned to hope, to dream, and most importantly, to help others the way they had been helped. 5 years had passed since the dying Kethmori fleet first entered Earth's solar system. Now, Fleet Admiral Velthor stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, a ship that represented the best of both civilizations. Its hull gleamed with hybrid armor that could withstand the heat of a star, while its engines could cross the galaxy in months, instead of centuries. The bridge around him bustled with activity as both humans and Kethmori worked together like they had been born to it. Captain Minho Park sat at the navigation console, his fingers dancing over controls that combined human interface design with Kethmori precision technology. Beside him, Morden monitored communications using sensors that could detect signals from halfway across the universe. Final systems check complete, announced Dr. Gina Lee from her position at the medical station. All gene therapy supplies are loaded and ready. Velthar nodded, his chitin plates now shining with perfect health. The genetic treatment had not just saved his people, it had made them stronger than they had ever been. Young Kethmori, born after the therapy, could live for over 1,000 years, think faster than any computer, and work in conditions that would kill most other species. But more importantly, they had learned to dream again. "Sir," called Dalvin from the engineering station. The young Kethmori had grown into the finest engineer in the fleet, his 4 arms capable of repairs that seemed impossible. "The new hyperdrive is running perfectly. We can reach the Andromeda Galaxy in just 3 months. Dr. Hannah Kim, now Director of Interstellar Relations, joined Velthor at the main view screen. Through the transparent metal, they could see Earth growing smaller behind them, its blue surface still as beautiful as the day the Kethmori first discovered it. "The Zephyrian distress signals are getting stronger," she reported. "Their entire star system is collapsing, and they have maybe 6 months before everything is destroyed." Velthar remembered his own people's desperate flight from their dying sun 3 centuries ago. Back then, they had found only empty worlds and hostile species. The Zephyrians would find something different. They would find hope. "How many ships are we taking on this mission?" he asked. 20 vessels, replied Captain Solahan from her position at Tactical. 10 human, 10 Kethmori, all equipped with the new rescue pods and medical facilities. The New Horizon was the flagship of a fleet that would have been unimaginable 5 years ago. Each ship carried crews from both species, along with supplies, medicine, and most importantly, the knowledge of how to rebuild a civilization. Lieutenant Dowen Choi looked up from his engineering console. "All ships report ready for jump to hyperspace, Admiral." Velthar took one last look at the star system that had become home to both their peoples. Luna Station was now 10 times larger than when they first arrived, bustling with researchers and engineers from dozens of species. The first joint colony in the Kepler system was thriving, with cities that combined human architecture and Kethmori crystal gardens. The Helix Nebula colony just sent their monthly report, announced Dr. Kyung Nam from the agricultural station. Their first harvest exceeded all expectations. They're already planning to expand to 3 more worlds. But it was not just about building colonies. In the 5 years since first contact, the alliance between humans and Kethmori had attracted other species. The Altarians, whose homeworld had been destroyed by an asteroid, now worked alongside both peoples to terraform dead worlds. The vegan traders brought news and supplies from distant sectors of the galaxy. "Signal from the Friendship," reported Morden. "Captain Park says the escort fleet is ready to follow us into hyperspace." Velthor smiled, though the expression looked strange on his insect-like face. Captain Park was Minho's younger brother, now commanding his own ship at the age of 28. The young human had been born after first contact, and he spoke Keth as well as he spoke Korean. "Admiral," said Dr. Gina, "I have to ask, are you sure about this mission? Andromeda is so far away. We'll be gone for at least 2 years. Velthar turned to look at her, his compound eyes reflecting the light of distant stars. Dr. Gina, 5 years ago my people were dying, alone in the darkness. You could have ignored us, could have turned us away. Instead, you saved us. He gestured toward the view screen, where the other ships in their fleet were visible as points of light against the star field. Now we have the power to do the same for others. How could we not use it? Thalvin looked up from his station, his young face bright with excitement. The Zephyrians' mathematics are completely different from ours. Think of what we could learn from each other. And their art, added Dr. Hannah. The cultural exchange files show they create music using gravitational waves. Imagine the beauty they could add to our worlds. Captain Minho called out from his station. All ships are in position, Admiral, ready for jump on your command. Velthor stood tall, his posture showing the confidence of a leader who no longer fought just for survival, but for something greater. Around him, humans and Kethmori worked together with the easy partnership of family. Take us to hyperspace, he ordered. The stars stretched into lines of light as the New Horizon and its escort fleet leaped across impossible distances. They carried with them the message that had transformed the galaxy. No species had to face extinction alone. Behind them, Earth's sun continued to shine, a beacon that had taught the universe its greatest lesson. Sometimes the strongest civilizations were not the ones with the biggest weapons or the fastest ships, but the ones willing to help strangers in the darkness. And that light was spreading, one rescued species at a time, to every corner of the universe.